Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to take a look at setting up some new animations and how we can create those inside of Unreal so we don't have to go to other programs, which makes life a whole lot easier for people. And what we're going to do is we're also going to set it up so when we press our grip buttons, we change our animations. So we've got a lot to cover in this one, especially in the animation blueprints and skeletons, so let's jump right in. So the first thing we're going to do is open up our VR hands folder, and then we're going to start with our left. We're going to go to left hand animations. I'm going to start by making a point animation. And in here, we want to actually show our bones. So we're going to go character, bones, and then all hierarchy so we can see them. And what we can do is we can actually select these bones now. And we can rotate them, if it'll let me. So we can actually control what happens. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select the rotations. You can be precise on here. I recommend keeping a note of the angles. So have it go through. And then we can have them come around. It's not perfect by all means, but it gets the job done for what we're after. So let's just keep it like so, keep it easy. And then we're going to have the thumb go in a little bit. And I think that's good enough. So what we're going to do now is actually go to create asset, create animation, then current pose. So we select our folder, left hand animations, VR hand anim. So we want VR hand underscore anim. Be left, and then this one will be point. Hit OK. And now if we go to our VR template, we have a new animation with our pointing, and we can set this up. So we're going to do the same thing with our right hand. I know it's a bit tedious, but the idea is that if I show you it now, hopefully you guys can remember what we got to do, and it'll just sink in a little bit easier. So we're going to do the same thing. We're literally just going to go through and reposition the hand as we need. Excellent. I think it was just this bone and that one that we brought in twice. Cool. So we do the exact same thing, create animation, current pose, and then we've got right hand animation, underscore anim, underscore right, underscore point. Do OK. Hit save. And now in VR template, we got both of these. What we want to do is go back to our grip state. And I also realized we don't actually need our hand to use. So we're going to delete that. So in grip state, we're going to open this up and we can create a new one. We'll just call this point. Leave it like so. And with both of those done, we're actually going to create another animation. So you're probably like thinking, what, why? But what we're going to do is we're going to have it so when we touch the face buttons on our controllers, we're going to have the thumb actually animate down. So it'll look pretty cool, trust me. So in our right hand, we're going to go to our right hand animations. And we want to pick a suitable one. And I think for my test, I used the right open. So I'm going to double click this one. And all we're going to do is we're going to move our thumb down a couple of points. So I'll do 2 for each bone. And then we'll do create asset, create animation, current pose. This is right hand animation and underscore anim, right thumb down. Okay. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the left hand. left hand open. And if I don't lose the hand, where are you? There you are. Come back. What we can do is we can take this and do the same thing. So I just moved it twice. So it should be enough for us to see, and then create asset, create animation, and then current pose. So we've done that twice now, so that's 2 new animations. We'll come back later on and we'll look at how to create more of them and how to add them to our actual setup. So hand left, so hand underscore anim underscore left. This is thumb down, and then hit OK. Save. And now we've got our new animations. So you can kind of go through and you can set these up however you want. And as long as you keep the rotation the same, you can do it in external programs as well, such as Blender. So it should work quite well. So now what we need to do is set up our actual hands to rig and animate. This is where things get complicated if you've never used animation blueprints before. It can be a bit of a weird one to get used to. So we'll jump right in and we'll just see how it goes. So the first thing we're going to do is open up our animation blueprint, and I'm going to start with the left hand. We want to go to our event graph, and in here we're going to create some more blueprint interface events actually, so functions. So we're going to move this up. We want to keep our event blueprint update animation and try get owner pawn, because we'll use the event update animation later. So from here we're going to double click our blueprint interface, and we actually want to create a couple more. So we're going to create a new one called trigger touched. And we need this to have a input of a Boolean, trigger touched. And then our next one is going to be face button touched. And then our last one is going to be grip axis value. So for the face buttons, if you have the thumb set up in the correct position and orientation, you can have one function for each button on the controller, and then it will change the position of the thumb for you. So just keep that in mind. I'm just doing the one because I'm just going to have it so it goes down to represent all of the buttons, but that's just something to think about. So we've got a grip axis value, and that needs a function input of a float. So input float grip axis value. Face button touched is also going to be a Boolean. And that's it for here. We can hit compile and save. And the first thing we're going to do is go back to our animation blueprint. And we're going to set this all up, and then we'll set up the inputs themselves afterwards. So we want to do event, or we'll hit compile first so it updates, and then we're going to search event. And we want grip axis value, which we're going to promote to a variable. We'll call this grip axis value, or in this case it'll be left grip. So do left grip value. And if you're not too sure what this is, on the controller, the thumbstick can actually read from a 0 to 1 position. So as we press it, halfway would be 0.5. We're going to use that to determine the blend between the fingers. So from here, we can do compile and save. And while we're here, we might as well give our event update animation a variable. So we're going to promote that to a variable, and we're going to leave it as delta time. We'll come back to that in a little bit. And then we want to get event trigger touched. Again, promote to a variable, call it right trigger touched. And then event face button touched. And then promote that to a variable as well. Make sure it's named correctly, right face button touched. So we should have 4 custom variables or custom events created from our blueprint interface. And then we're going to use these to drive our animations. Hit compile and save. So before we set up our inputs, we can see here that our event or update animation is firing. We're going to do this part of the code. It won't do anything until later on, but it's going to be easier to do it this way than bouncing around a whole lot. This bit might not make too much sense, but follow along and it should be all right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a sequence. And we want to create 2 floats. So variables, float. I'm going to call this thumb down blend. Make this a float. And then we'll create a new one, which is called point blend. And essentially what these are going to do is they're going to drive the animations to move based on the triggers. When it comes to the inputs, if you have a different HMD setup, you might have to set those up differently, but it should all work the same way. So thumb down. And we're going to drag these in, and we're going to do a set. And we want that for the point blend as well, set. And I've got them the other way around on my example, so just so I don't get confused, we're going to hook those up like so. And we're going to fire these as it is. So what we're going to do is we're basically going to create a lerp. So we go from a 0 to 1 value based on our left grip, or more accurately based on our right trigger touched and right face touched. So what we're going to do is we're going to do drag off point blend, F interp 2, and then from target we're going to do a select. And for A, it's going to be our trigger touched. So right trigger touched. So when we touch our trigger, we're going to point, basically. And what we want to do is we want to take A, and we're going to make literal float, leave that as a value of 0, and then we're going to CV, so copy and paste it down. And for B, we're going to make this a value of 1. So if right trigger is touched, we flip between 0 and 1, and then we activate the interp. We want to plug in our delta time into delta time. And interp speed, I found, so interp speed is the speed that the animation plays or blends between. I found 20 is a nice blend mode, or like an amount that you can use. So just keep that in mind. And then what we want to do is we want to get our point blend float and plug that into current, like so. And we can actually copy and paste most of that down to the next part. We might have to make some more room here, so we'll move those down. So we copy this, CV, plug that into thumb, and we want to put our thumb blend into point, and then our face button touched to our trigger touched, like so. That's all looking good for this. And now as soon as we hit compile, we can see those fire. And these are actually going to drive our animation event. So our anim graph are going to be driven by this, which will make more sense in a minute. So before we set up our animation graph, we're going to actually have to go back to our VR template and open up our skeletal hand component. So our skeletal mesh component that contains all of our information, and we just crashed. Okay, so I lost everything. I'll be right back. Okay, so I think I'm back where I was before I broke. So we just finished setting up all this part. I realized that in the original, I don't think I told you to change the top variable for current to thumb up blend. You want it to match the end point. So with that done, what we can do is we can actually go back to our VR template, make sure we save all, just in case. And in this case, we want to open up our skeletal hand. We're just going to double click that. And we want to move down, and we're going to work in this area here. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to right click and set up a custom event. And this will be grip access value. So don't forget, this part of the code, or this component essentially, is working as a middleman. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our get access value. We're going to drag off this and we're going to do a branch. And for our condition, we actually want to get anim class. So don't forget, this goes to the component, so this just searches what's being set. We're going to equal, and again we're going to do left hand, so AB left hand, plug that into the condition, and then we're going to right click get anim instance, and we want to grip, so set or fire the grip access value. Message, we're going to plug that in, so into true, and then we're going to copy and paste it down, and we'll connect our grip access value to our custom event. So it creates our pin for us, and we'll connect the bottom one to it as well. So compile save, we've got an error because I didn't connect the anim instance. Compile. And while we're in here, we might as well set up the touch face stuff. So we're going to do a custom event. We're going to call this trigger touched. And we literally just want to get our anim instance and then call trigger touched. So trigger touched message. I'm going to plug that into our custom event. And then we're going to do another custom event, and we'll call this face button touched. We want to drag off anim instance and get face button touched message. And then plug that in there as well. Excellent. So do compile and save. And now we can actually have our player communicate through this. So we need to go back to our VR pawn. I know there's a lot of jumping around. I hope that's okay. Hope you're all keeping track. And in here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to disconnect, while we're thinking about it, our right hand grip state. So we're going to disconnect that one from is not verified and disconnect it from is not valid. So it's now a lot neater. Do the same thing for the left. Delete that. I'll save. And the reason we're doing that is because these animations are going to be drove by the event tick in our hand. And we've only set up the left hand animation blueprint. So we'll use that one for now. So we're going to set up a area and then we're going to have some code in there. So what we're going to do is open up our project settings. So edit project settings. And we want to go down to input. I'm going to save all just because it did a little hitch. And in action mappings and access mappings, we're going to open those up so they drop down. So what we can see is we actually have grab axis right and grab axis left. We're going to use those to begin with to set up our first part. So we're going to right click, grab axis, got grab axis left, and then grab axis right. And we're going to do a branch. From the axis value, we're just going to check to see if it's greater than 0.1. Actually, 0.01 should be a bit more accurate. So basically, we can't have any false touches. It's gonna wait for us to actually press the trigger. You can remove this section if you want, but I find it quite useful to stop some false inputs. And now we want to check our held component. So we don't want to be able to move our fingers too much if we're already holding something. So we're going to go to components, and we have a component here that is held component left and held component right. I'm going to drag those in, and we'll do a get, and then we're going to right click on it, and then we can do a convert to valid get. And from true, we're going to plug that in like so, and we do the same thing for held component right. So we right click, convert to valid get, and then from true. And now we say, if we're not holding anything, so if the held component is not valid, we're going to be able to move our fingers. And to do that, we do grip axis value, and we plug that into our axis value. And for our target, we want to make sure it is our right hand in this case. So we do the same thing for left. So we get our left hand, we do grip axis value is not valid. We plug the grip axis into there. And then we can highlight this and comment it out. So input axis grip. That is our first part done. Hit save. And now we want to set up our inputs for our touch faces and our trigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our project settings, and inside of action mappings, we're going to create a couple. So in action mappings, we're going to need a left trigger touched, and then we want right trigger touched. And because I'm using the Oculus, I'm going to use the Oculus Touch. Oculus Touch left, so trigger touch. And then Oculus Touch, go down to right trigger touch. So we got both of those. And now we need another 2. And it's going to be left face button touched. and then right face button's touched. Don't know why it removed the capital from touched. There we go. And in this case, what we need to do is go through and add all the inputs that are on the front face. So we've got the thumbstick, Y and X. And then for the right, we've got B, A, and the thumbstick. So left, we're going to go to Oculus Touch. Left, we've got X touched. Plus Oculus Touch, left, Y touch. And then Oculus Touch, left, thumbstick, touch. And you can do this with like Vive and Valve Index. I will be doing another part on setting up the Valve Index so you can have the finger controls. But that will be, we'll come back to that so we don't get too confused here. So we're going to minimize that one. And then on the right, we're going to do the same thing, Oculus Touch. Right, A touch. Oculus Touch. Y touch. And then Oculus Touch, thumbstick, touch. So I've done all of that. We can actually go back to our VR pawn and we start setting these up. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and search left trigger touched, and we want the action event, and then we want right trigger touched action event, and we might as well do the other ones as well. So face button touched, so left face button touched access event, right face button touch action event. Keep calling it access event, it's action event. And now we need the held component left and right. I'm just going to copy and paste these ones because we just need them twice for each one. Plug them in like so. True, true. So it should be right to right, left to left. Excellent. And that's just the held component variable that we've got. And that's a case of getting the left hand, and then right hand, Control CV, do the same thing. And then from the left hand, we want to do the call function, so trigger touch. So it should be the C skeletal hand. So our component, not valid. And then we'll set trigger touch to true. And we're going to copy and paste this below it. Set our target, and then plug that into released, and then make sure it's false. And we're going to do this all the way down. So choose CV. We just got to change the reference to the right hand. Like so. Just double checking my notes. And then face button for the second one. And it has to be the call function. Remember that, it has to be the reference to our actual player. If you do the blueprint interface, it won't work. And then we do the same thing for both of these. Make sure we connect our targets. Don't want to forget that. So now when we actually touch our buttons and our faces, they'll actually communicate with the animation blueprint of our hand. So we've got our top part, which is input, action, trigger touched. Input, action, face button touched. So this is all we have to do here now. We should be good to go. But what we've got to do is actually go back to our left hand animation blueprint and set it up so we've got our event graph. Because at the minute, we're not actually telling it to do anything. So I'm going to go to our event graph. I took the long way. Where is it? There it is, animation event graph. And we're going to add a whole load of code into here. Let's take our grip state, get grip state if it's equal enum to open. Do blend, should be able to plug that in. Or blend alpha input type, we want to set that to bool. That's correct. Go in there. And then grip state machine is going to be into our B. And then that can go into our results. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to play some animations, but as soon as we are not equal to our open, which means we've picked something up, we've grabbed something, then we're going to use our state machine, so our custom events or custom animations. This will make more sense. So we kind of got to work backwards from this. So from A, we're going to drag off and do layered blend per bone. And we actually need 2 of these. So like so. And we're going to plug the first one into our base pose. And then we want to go to our asset browser. And we're actually going to use these to blend. So thumb down and left thumb down. We're going to drag that in and plug it into our blend pose 0. And then point is going to go to our other blend pose 0. And for the blend weights, this is actually where we blend them, so we control them. So point blend, we're going to actually control the point. And then we have thumb blend, we'll control this one. And we're going to have a blend plug into our base pose. So we have the default open and close, so it'll be open and then grab, open, grab, and that'll be controlled through left grip axis value. And while I'm here, I realize that this is not an equal, it should be a not. So drag off and search not equal enum. If it is not equal to open, it means we're going to play these animations, or we're going to play the state machine. But what we want to do is we actually want to change our layered blend per bone. So at the minute, it doesn't know what bones we need to animate, and we're going to choose that now. So by selecting the layered blend per bone, we're going to open this up and we're going to do layered setup, index, and then branch filters. We're going to do a plus, and then we want to open that one up as well. So what we're going to do here is we're kind of going to select which bone we want to animate. So in here, if we choose we're working on the left, so we go to the left. For the point, it would be the index 01 underscore L. That's the finger that we would move up and down. So we go back to that, we're going to do that. We're going to put in bone name, search index underscore 01 underscore L, because in the actual meshes, it's actually got the correct name for it. So left, you see it's L underscore L, and then in the right, if we've got it selected, which it's not doing for some reason, it's got R for the right. So in our left, we've got index underscore 01 underscore L, blend bias, blend depth 0, and we want to leave that as it is. And then everything else should be fine. And then for the second one, so our thumb down, we want to move that thumb bone. So we're going to select the same thing, index branch filters, do a plus, open this up. And in this case, the bone that we're going to move in our left hand, if we open it up, and thumb down, is going to be our thumb underscore 01 underscore L. So it does take a bit of getting used to, but overall, once it's sorted, it's not too bad to work with. Thumb underscore 01 underscore L. It just has to be spelled correctly. So index, and then looks like we're good to go with this. Let me double check everything. We want to disable loop animations. And here we're going to select loop animation. We're going to disable that. And we want to keep everything as it is. So we don't want these to loop. So we're going to select all of our animations and disable the loop. So now if we hit compile, save all. And we're lucky enough, we should actually be able to go in and test this out now. So I just gave my left hand a test. It didn't actually work. And the reason for that is I believe I've set up my inputs wrong. So in VR Porn, we need to see which one's going wrong. So in here, we've got get access value. So we want to search for Get access value. That should be now our Skeletal hand. Cool. So that was on me. Just make sure that those are going to the correct place. And we'll plug those in and replace these ones. Target. So now we can hit compile and save. Hit play. And if we jump in, we've only set it up for our left hand, but we should be able to, so we can grab, and if we're not touching the trigger, it's actually pointing, but as soon as we touch the trigger, it actually moves our finger down. So we go to a fist, and then if we touch the actual thumb or the face buttons, our thumb goes down, but if we hold all of them and then we press it or touch the thumb, it goes down as well. So the issue is we're playing the wrong animation to begin with. So we got to change that around for the thumb. And let's take a look at how to fix the thumb. And we can actually easily fix the thumb by dragging off the right face button. And if we search not and then scroll up, we got not Boolean. We're basically going to invert it. So we hit compile and save and we press play. We'll be able to take our left hand, and as soon as we slightly grip the button, we can grip and we point, and as soon as we touch the trigger, our finger goes in, and if we touch the face buttons at the same time, our thumb comes up. So we kind of got the whole range of movement. So thumb buttons, and then it goes back. And I think we could do with actually inverting the input for the trigger as well. Right trigger touch. So let's try that and see how it feels. I'll save. So now, so now as soon as we touch the trigger, we point, and then we can actually touch the thumb as well. So that actually feels a lot nicer. And we still got feedback when we touch the thumb or touch the thumbstick, or the trigger, if I get it right. So we can control our fingers, and then we can point, and then we can do a whole bunch of stuff with our hands. And if we walk over to this, we should be able to pick it up, and it uses the grab. And then when we pull our triggers, our hands are messing up, so we'll have a look at that. But that's one way to get our hands pointing and a bit more interactive. So if you feel comfortable enough to do it, you can totally try and set this up with the right hand. It's basically exactly the same. But what we'll do is we'll do that in this next video, and then we'll look at fixing the fingers for when you grab objects and how to get them to stop from going halfway or partway. For now, we'll leave it there. And until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.